Well, an Amnesty International report says that countries supplying arms to Iraq should recognize that their weapons could end up in the hands of militia groups and that they could be used to carry out attacks against Sunni Arabs. The report focuses on popular mobilization units. They are Shia militants fighting alongside the Iraqi army. The group is a major force fighting Daesh in Iraq. Militants allied to the Iraqi government have access to arms from at least 16 countries, including the United States, the European Union, Russia, and Iran. There is no adequate system in place to trace whose hands the weapons end up in. Amnesty International says Iraq must enact stricter measures to ensure arms stockpiles are secure. Patrick Wilcken is a researcher on arms control with Amnesty International. He wrote that report, and he joins us now live from London. Thanks so much for joining us, Patrick. It's not unusual at all that weapons end up where they shouldn't be. The black market arms trade is huge. But why are the popular mobilization units of particular concern to you?
The popular mobilization units are of a particular concern to us because we have documented systematic and very serious human rights violations across Iraq since their formation in 2014. And they are well provisioned by arms directly supplied by the Iraqi authorities. They are legally now part of the Iraqi security forces. And we are seeing that there are huge transfers of arms going into Iraq that are not being adequately controlled and are ending up in the hands of serial violators. We're also, as you said, seeing that, as has been the case for many years, there's a vigorous illicit trade domestically in Iraq. And last but not least, there has been a long-standing illicit trade over the Iranian-Iraqi border, and there are substantial quantities of Iranian weapons ending up in the hands of these militia groups and being used to control territory, to control checkpoints, abduct, summarily execute and torture Sunni men and boys.
And you've long complained about weapons produced in countries like the US, Russia, the European Union, ending up in the hands of groups that violate human rights. They break international law. Why has this never been stopped?
Well, I mean, I think that we can see that there's a long and sad history of arms transfers coming from the big suppliers into the Middle East, an area that is hugely unstable and an area where there's very limited control over national army stockpiles. While clearly the situation in Iraq is critical and the Iraqi authorities and armed forces have a right and indeed a duty to protect all civilians under their jurisdiction and in their territory in the fight against Islamic State, there has to be a system both in terms of the responsibility of the supplier states and the receiving country, in this case Iraq, to make sure that those arms are secure and are used within the constraints of international humanitarian and human rights law.
Patrick, how high are your expectations that something will actually change, that action will be taken as a result of your research and of this report?
Well, we have been constantly pressing and pressuring the Iraqi authorities. We're also in touch with main suppliers such as the USA. I think there is an awareness, especially since the very serious violations that occurred within the context of the retaking of Fallujah and Ramadi, that there is a serious problem, that there are militia groups that are completely unaccountable, that are operating with total impunity, and that are not being under the command and control structures of the Iraqi authorities. There's an awareness, and we will continue to press for a much more secure system of arms transfers that do not risk ending up in the hands of militias that are unaccountable and abusive.
There's an awareness, but do there need to be defined consequences and a serious system of accountability now?
Well, there definitely needs to be a serious system of accountability on the ground in Iraq. There needs to be a thorough, independent investigations of all the various violations that we have documented, remembering that these are not isolated instances. They involve thousands of Sunni men and boys that have been abducted. Many hundreds have never reappeared and are feared dead. And so the Iraqi authorities need to investigate these past abuses and to bring the militia groups into proper accountability systems, vet the suspected violators, and disband any groups that cannot be brought under proper accountability systems. And supply states, for their part, need to pressure the Iraqi authorities to act. And if the risk of transferring arms to Iraq is too great, those transfers should not take place.
Okay, Patrick Wilcken, thank you so much for joining us there live from London.